ठीक है, दोनों को देख लो ना, ये करो। ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है। Okay, good evening. So this is for the week 2 of your month of April. So we are covering 5 issues. Okay, the first one is about the Bengal florican. Bengal florican, or it is also called the last dance. It was according to the article that was there in the newspaper. Okay, last dance of vanishing grasslands. This part, vanishing grasslands, already points towards the direction that we are talking about. The evil quartet, what was that? Habitat degradation and fragmentation. Okay, so we are talking about Bengal florican, and it is because there has been a decline in population, and that is globally. Globally, you will find that the population has decreased to less than 1,000. Less than 1,000. So when we talk about IUCN status, what do you expect logically of this IUCN status? Critically endangered. So this would be critically endangered. Okay. So it signals imminent extinction risk. Core cause is rapid loss of alluvial grasslands in Gangetic Brahmaputra floodplains. That means that you will find that the alluvial grasslands, it is usually due to the overflooding process. Flooding, that will decrease the amount of habitats that it has. The second thing is, whenever there is flooding of these grasslands, you will find that these Bengal floricans will actually move towards the agricultural farms. That means this behavior has been seen that whenever there is such kind of habitat degradation, they will move towards the grounds that serve as a hope to them, right? What is one insight? It is not just species decline, it is a failure of grassland conservation policy. Do we have a grassland conservation policy? Do we have a grassland conservation policy? When we talk about deserts, do we have a desert policy? For example, forest, grasslands, and deserts. So we see that these are the types of ecosystems. Type of ecosystem, when we talk about terrestrial ecosystem, forest, grasslands, and deserts, which one has the most respect in the terms of policy? We talk about forest, there is National Forest Policy. What does it state? It states that your forests should be 1/3 of the total geographical area of India. Deserts, we say prevent deserts. Okay, that means do not have desertification. But for grasslands, do we have any such kind of policy? No. Grasslands are actually something that is going to be treated as wastelands. They are treated as wastelands in your land records. And that is why there is no consistent policy on what kind of land use you will have in these grasslands. Okay? So we have a policy for forest, we have a policy against deserts, but we have no policy for grasslands. So they are treated as such, and therefore the species that have them as habitat, they are also getting threatened. So species Bengal florican, busted family. Which one? Which else is from busted family? Lesser florican is also there, but something that was in news. Project Great Indian Bustard. This is also your critically endangered. Okay, that's that. We should not get confused with this bird. IUCN, we have seen critically endangered. Second, WPA, again Schedule 1. CMS, what is CMS? Migratory species, and it is also known as Bonn Convention. Okay, this is by whom? UNEP. UNFEP. You said UNFCCC. CCC is for climate change. Yes. Okay, we are talking about biodiversity. Ecological identity, it is the indicator species of tropical alluvial grasslands. Yes. Found in mainly Terai region. Okay. This is your distribution. We are talking about habitat. Habitat is grasslands. We are talking about distributions. It is Terai Brahmaputra. Okay. Now, ecology and distribution, important from our exam point of view. What are these? First, habitat, we have seen seasonally flooded tall grasslands. imperata, and saccharum. These are the types of grasses that will be the habitat, that will be present in the habitat of this. Unique behavior is lekking. Okay, that means the males will be displayed in open grassland patches. Okay, this kind of is something that is found to be in grassland mosaics, not dense forest. When we say that, grassland mosaics means having grassland patches or with patches of trees as well. Not dense forest, that means there has to be interruptions between the various number of trees that are there in forest. What is the distribution? This one is more important. Distribution, it is in Manas National Park. Manas National Park kahan par hai? Here, this location, you will have Manas. Kaziranga will also be here in this location itself, Kaziranga National Park. Then Dudhwa National Park. This is important when we are talking about. It will be near UP. In UP, there is a district called Lakhimpur Kheri. Okay, here you will have Dudhwa tigers. It is Dudhwa National Park, but it is also designated as a tiger reserve. And it is also one of the national parks where you will find that there was a program. You had Indian Rhino Vision, that is to relocate or to transfer some number of rhinos from Kaziranga National Park to other types of national parks. So Dudhwa National Park was one of such kind of location that was found to be apt for such kind of, for providing habitat for survival conditions of rhino. Okay, this is also grassland area. Okay, we try to relocate the animal or translocate the animal from one position to the other. The habitats must be same. Okay, and what about the other countries? It is also present in other countries. Nepal, Terai, Cambodia, these areas. This is Cambodia. Okay, Nepal, these areas. Okay. Then you have, what are the significance? The significance of this, first is it represents the grassland biome, and it is the most neglected ecosystem. We have seen that forest and deserts, we try to keep our focus on these two, prevent spread of deserts and prevent go for increase of forest, right? Similarly, there was an issue about Aravali Hills. Aravali Hills was trying to protect forest, or was it trying to prevent desertification? Prevent desertification, right? So linked with species, rhinos are also grassland species, hai na? Rhinos, you cannot have them in a dense forest. Elephants will actually uproot the trees. They are also called ecosystem engineers, or they are also called landscape architects. This is because the reason that they will uproot the trees, and they will also increase the soil-bound carbon. Soil-bound carbon is related to your climate change, and that will increase the amount of carbon content in the soil level. Swamp deer. So their loss is also going to lead to the collapse of floodplain ecology. Governance failure. At the level of governance, we have seen already, forest and deserts, no grasslands policy. Grasslands, on the other hand, it is classified as a wasteland. Whenever you go for land revenue records, you will find that it is classified as wastelands. But do we not understand the importance of grasslands? Yes, we do. When we are talking about livestock, when we are talking about land fragmentation in economics, for the agricultural farmers, we have seen that there are so many small and marginal farmers. So most of the farmers, or most of the rural India, would depend upon what? Livestock, cattle. Okay, and this livestock will depend upon what? Grasslands or grazing grounds. And if we are going for deterioration of these grasslands, that means we are actually endangering the livelihood income of the rural people. Second governance failure is many habitats are outside the protected areas. Many habitats are outside the protected areas. That means our governance is much more focused upon the animals that are within the protected areas and preserving them, rather than conserving the ones that are outside the protected areas as well. You had this program IDWH. What was this? Integrated Development of Wildlife Habitat. integrated development of wildlife habitat. This was a centrally sponsored scheme, talked about three things. One was that we must conserve the species within the protected areas, ones that are outside the protected areas, and the third thing was the species recovery program. Remember this species recovery program? 22 species were there, right? Third, social dimension, community conservation and coexistence with agriculture is necessary. Okay, it is actually the case that whenever we try to find out that there might be one of the threats or one of the reasons for the decline in the number of individuals of a particular species might be related to human wildlife conflict, but here the case is not such. There is no human wildlife conflict. On the contrary, you will find that humans through their agricultural practices are actually helping to conserve the wildlife. That means whenever it is flooded in this region, whenever it is flooded, you will find that the wildlife, that means this florican, will actually shift towards the ground that is there with laden with the land use of agriculture. Fourth is grasslands converted into agriculture and infrastructure. Okay. Food security versus biodiversity trade-off. That means whatever floodplains that were available for them to exist, they are also getting converted into agricultural farms. That means the present habitat is not going to be sufficient. Okay. Some prelims pointers that we have already seen. Only busted in wet grasslands, shows lacking behavior, found in Terai and Brahmaputra floodplains. CMS, we have Appendix 1. That means they are on the verge of extinction, Appendix 1. And then critically endangered as per IUCN. Okay. Next is also from the theme of biodiversity. This is, this may not be something, that can be asked, but there are some behaviors, like for example, some species that will exhibit certain types of behaviors. And there are some terms that are important and they are in news, then we should know about them. Okay, it is important from that point of view. So this is hectocotylus in octopus reproduction. So what happens is, for octopus, we have seen, whether octopus is vertebrate or invertebrate. Invertebrate. It is one of the most intelligent ones. Okay, amongst the invertebrates, it is one of the most intelligent ones. You will see in this picture how many arms are there. You did not count. 10. 10. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is 4, 8. These two ones are called hectocotyli. Hectocotyli. So these are the ones that are used for reproduction. That means they are furthering their generations through breeding. So there has been a new research on octopus reproduction. It says that male hectocotylus acts as a sperm transfer organ, and the second thing is sensory appendage. Okay, sensory appendage. This means that this does dual purpose, dual function is there. That means one is the process of reproduction itself, it is involved in that, and the second, it is also used as a sensory organ. Okay, so this is something that the new researchers found out. It was already in the process of reproduction, but something more it has been seen. So the discovery is that it detects progesterone in females via CRT1 receptor. You don't have to remember CRT1 receptors and everything. You just have to know that these two are the things. One is sensory appendage. This means that it senses the female hormones. It senses the female hormones. Okay. So the core insight is that both two things, when we are talking about dual function, reproduction plus sensory, sensing female hormones, both of them are present in one organ. Okay, this is essential for the reproduction process, octopus. This is how the actual mechanism is, how it takes place. This is the octopus. This is the hectocotylus. Hectocotylus that will sense, that can sense both hormones and that can also provide for the spermatophores. Okay, so modified arm in male octopus, this is a modified arm, a kind of a modified arm, transfers spermatophores into the female mantle cavity. Cephalopods. Cephalopods are the ones that are used to, that are the ones that are seen to exhibit such kind of behavior. What are cephalopods? You will have examples of, this is important, octopus, squid, cuttlefish. And then there is one more example of nautilus. Okay, what are the characteristics of them? One, since we have already said that octopus are very intelligent, they will have large brains. Okay, when we are talking about these cephalopods are marine mollusks. Okay, mollusk is when we talk about mollusks, they are invertebrates. When we are talking about cephalopods, they will have large brains. Okay, brain will lead to your nervous system. That means very developed nervous systems. And then you will have, they also exhibit some type of complex behavior. Okay. Now in the process of evolution, adaptation, whenever we were studying about the genetic traits being passed on from one generation to the other, you're seeing that one is this, that there is dual function. The second, we talk about chemoreception, this sensory part which detects the female hormones. It is called chemoreception. That means these are analyzed as chemicals. And therefore, this organ then takes in whether these chemicals are present or not. And based on this, even if there is darkness, even when they cannot see their female partner, then also they will have the presence of these chemicals. And this will work even without visual cues. That means there can be darkness, they won't know. Then also the reproduction process can be possible. Now behavioral ecology, this is something that can be asked in the exam. One is, octopus are solitary animals. What do you mean by solitary? Yes, that means they are mostly alone. And because they are alone, it becomes much more critical. Okay, that means efficient mate detection. That when we say that this kind of chemicals will help in or increase in the detection processes of female octopus, then this detection is much more important because they are alone, right? Second, enables chemical communication via touch. Okay, so this is darkness, but through touch they will be able to understand whether the chemical relates to the female hormones or not. Okay, something very, very useful because in the marine environment there would be more amount of darkness. That means more amount of aphotic zone. Then for us, what is important? There is one word that out of all of this I would say is very, very important. So ye evolutionary insight is there. CRT1 receptor, that means the sensory part, actually evolved from the reproductive part. Okay, that were important for reproduction. So this is a form of exaptation. This is important. Exaptation. What does this mean? That there was already an existing organ, and in that organ a new functionality has developed. Okay, so already existing organ was there that was useful in the reproduction process, but now the sensory role has also been added to this reproductive arm. So this is your exaptation. This is very, very important. Okay, next you will have neurobiology. This is also again interaction between nervous system and reproductive system. That means you are able to have these kind of receptors in place so that you can identify the female part. Okay. Now this is important. India withdraws from hosting COP33. Now this news is about UNFCCC, and this relates to what? Climate change. We have seen all the COPs, we have seen the updated NDCs, Nationally determined contribution. What is the present NDC? NDC 3.0. What is the target for non-fossil fuel use? Emissions intensity, then you will have carbon sink, and then you will have one more thing, that is your non-fossil fuel use. So whenever we go for targets, we say that we are going to adhere to a certain percentage of these things. What is emissions intensity? Emissions intensity, we say it is emissions divided by GDP. That means how much of products that you are, or the final goods and services that is going into the economy, for production of that much, how much emissions are you going for? Okay, so this means emissions intensity. That means if the GDP increases, then emissions can also increase because the ratio will remain the same. Okay, so when we are talking about emissions intensity, we have said that we are going to reduce this by 47% of which levels? Of 2005 levels. That means the emission intensity that was there, that means emission divided by GDP in 2005, we are going to reduce it by 47%, but by the year 2035. Carbon sink 3.5 to 4 billion tons, and non-fossil fuel we are going to increase the installed capacity that we are using, for example the renewable energy sources, to 60%. So this is one of the latest news, very important, and in that continuation you will also find India withdraws from hosting COP33. Okay, so background, this proposal was made in COP28 Dubai, okay, 2023. So whenever such kind of a proposal is being made, India wants to portray itself as a global south leadership. Okay, that means global south leadership, global south climate leader. Why? Because of this principle. The principle is CBDR-RC. What is this CBDR? Common. What is the common thing? Climate change. Climate change is the common problem, but differentiated responsibilities. Why there should be differentiated responsibilities? Yes, that means historical emissions are there, and therefore the polluter pays principle tells me that these historical emissions have to be paid for. So the developed country should naturally pay more. And then there is respective capabilities. What does respective capabilities means? It means that wherever you are in the developmental stage, you can contribute to having a solution to this common problem. Now, when we talk about development, India is a developing country. As per the Human Development Index, we can measure it. We can say that India is a developing country, and therefore India, because of its size and economy, it becomes a kind of a leader, a kind of a country that voices the concerns of the global south. Okay, so it withdrawing from hosting COP33 is something that was unexpected. Now just the static part. First, Conference of Parties annual summit. Okay, every year you will have. Which one is the latest one? Belem package COP30. Okay, and it is under UNFCCC. UNFCCC started when? 1992. When was Conference of Party 1? 1995. Then you have Kyoto Protocol, and then you have Paris Agreement. Okay. Two major milestones are there. Two major milestones are Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement. These two things you have to remember. Now, purpose, climate negotiations on mitigation, adaptation and climate finance. When we talk about mitigation, we want to prevent any kind of further carbon dioxide emissions. Adaptation, whatever has been done, let us try to adapt to the rise in temperature. It is said that as per the present NDCs, how much rise in temperature would be there? 2.5 to 2.9 degrees Celsius. Climate finance will talk about what? It will talk about adaptation fund, mitigation fund. It will talk about loss and damage fund. It will also talk about carbon markets. Okay, carbon markets. Carbon markets is essential for this year. Okay. Last year also they have asked carbon markets. This year also they may be They might ask because this is mentioned in the economic survey. Economic survey. Hosting pattern rotates amongst UN regional groups. So there are multiple regional groups, and for example, Eastern Europe is there, Western Europe is there, Asia Pacific is there. So right now there was a hosting pattern, and that was accruing on Asia Pacific region. That means it was the turn of Asia Pacific region. Specifically, the proposal was given for India, but now India has withdrawn. Let us see why. So key developments: withdrawal decision, that means communicated to Asia Pacific group, it is taken at the highest level, but no official reason disclosed. That means that we are not sure why the reason, what was the reason for withdrawal. Okay, it was announced at COP28, supported by the BRICS nations also. What are the BRICS? So these are emerging economies. They are termed to be emerging economies, and that is why they had grouped it like this, because of the relatively, you will have the developmental stage relatively closer by. Last COP hosted by India, it was in 2002. 2002. COP 33, it was a chance to reassert the leadership. And when we are withdrawing, who is the main contender now? Main contender to host this COP 33, it is South Korea, because we are talking about Asia Pacific region. Asia Pacific region. So the next one would be South Korea. Possible reasons, just because we want to guess some things. Okay, so we have possible reasons, but not something that is important. Just understand logistical burden. First, massive coordination requirement. That means you have to plan for the event. Second, climate pressure. Hosting, okay, this is important. Hosting increases scrutiny on NDC targets and climate commitments, avoiding binding expectations. Okay, the thing is that when we were talking about Brazil, okay, COP 30, Belém package was there, right? So we were talking about Brazil hosting this COP 30. Do you remember that they had also gone for a kind of an initiative for the forests? Tropical forests, forest forever facility. So this means that whenever you are going to host it, then you will have to also undertake some types of initiatives. There is a pressure. Okay, it is like a psychological pressure that you should also go for having certain types of rigid, or your targets must be met. Recently we have gone for NDC 3.2. There might be a more pressure for us to commit even more if we are hosting this COP 33 or expanding our climate commitments. So we want to avoid such kind of binding expectations. The third is domestic politics. One, it is very, very close to 2029 elections. Second, competing priorities, that there are major events. This is CWG, that is Commonwealth Games, that is going to happen in 2030. So we are going for domestic focus. Strategic interpretation, that we are going for these two keywords, very, very important. Symbolic leadership. Is symbolic leadership, that is the leadership for the global south or the developing countries or the least developed countries. To cautious diplomacy, that means we are not going to overcommit over our climate change or climate solution targets. The possible outcomes, one outcome could be that it might weaken India's narrative as a climate leader. Okay, already we have been progressing so well. We have NDC 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. Okay, in this we had fossil fuels. How much? How much was the target? 40%, 50%, and now 60%. Presently, we have how much of installed capacity for renewable energy sources? It is 52.57%. Okay, we have said that 60% kar lenge 2035 tak. Okay, all renewable energy sources. But remember that these are just installed capacities. The electricity generated might not be used, or the electricity is not being used at present. Okay. But preserves policy flexibility. That means that we are still the owner of our targets. That means we are still sovereign. That means it still provides us with operational flexibility. Okay, next is again from your biodiversity part. It is talking about 25 Himalayan griffon vultures are found dead. This is Lakhimpur Kheri. This we had seen. Lakhimpur Kheri, UP, near Dudhwa Tiger Reserve. Now this is the news, and news is also important in this case. But usually what will happen is they will either name the species, or they will name the national park or the tiger reserve or the protected area, and then they will ask you details about that from your static portion. So when we are talking about this, so let us have those static questions. How many vultures are there in India? 9 vultures. How many are critically endangered? 4. 4 are critically endangered. है ना? 4 are critically endangered. We are talking about 25 Himalayan griffon vultures. They are found dead. And near Dudhwa Tiger Reserve. How many tiger reserves are there in India? 54. 58 was there, right? You'll have to check. Okay, I think if I am not wrong, it is 58. Okay, 58 tiger reserves. Which one has the largest critical tiger habitat? Asked in your previous year question also. Yes, Nagarjuna Sagar, Shri Sailam. Where is it? Andhra Pradesh. Yes. Okay. And which one is the smallest one? Orang. Where? It is in Assam. Okay. Now there is Dudhwa Tiger Reserve, that is in news. It was also in news for the Bengal florican, also in news for vultures. So this means there is high chance that this can be asked. Dudhwa Tiger Reserve, the location must be very, very clear. Where is it located? Okay, what all kinds of species are there? So vultures, okay, you have Bengal florican. So species, Himalayan griffon, the thing is that this is near threatened. In the IUCN status we talk about, what are the categories? One is critically endangered, then you have endangered, then you have vulnerable, and then you have near threatened, and then you have least concern. So this is near threatened. Near threatened. That means there is not much threat to the survival of this species because the number of individuals is quite high. So population would be able to sustain its further generations. The scale of it, okay, it is just the beginning. We have seen that there are 25 dead and 6 are affected. And the buffer zone, that means there has been high amount of human-wildlife interaction. Okay. Now core concern is that there has been suspected secondary poisoning. I will explain secondary poisoning. But before that, what was that drug that used to create problem for the vultures? Diclofenac, है ना? And what did we do? Banned in 2006, right? Banned in 2006 and it was replaced with meloxicam. What is the purpose of these drugs? Pain relief, fever. Okay, in whom? In the cattle. Okay, what will happen is in the cattle you will find that the farmers will actually feed this medicine so that pain is relieved, fever is reduced. Okay, but what is found is that when those animals, when those cattle die, the carcasses or the bodies, the remains of that body will be fed on by the vultures. So when they are feeding on this, they will also be exposed to this drug. This drug is NSAID. What do we mean by NSAID? Yes, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. Okay. So when the vultures also consume this diclofenac, you will find that there would be renal failure, kidney failure. Renal failure in vultures. You will also find that there is instances of neck drooping. That means if they are sitting, their neck will feel as if it has dropped. Okay. here is a graph that you can see that as the diclofenac sales was rising, as it was rising, you will also find that the estimated vulture population was also declining. Okay, that means they drew a positive correlation between the increase in the use of this drug and the population of the vultures. Okay. Now there is one more angle, that is your consumption of poisoned carcasses, likely stray dogs. Now what happens is there is secondary poisoning. Okay? So one process we are already very familiar with. One is that vultures will decrease. The reason is that there are other scavengers that will experience less connection, that will increase the dogs and rats. When we are talking about the difference between the digestive tracts of vultures and these type of other scavengers are the ones that will clean up the environment. Okay, that means they will get rid of the organic matter. The digestive tract of vultures will be very, very acidic, while the scavengers like this, they are much more prone to spread diseases because they will not be able to have this kind of acidic environment. Therefore, the pathogens will not be killed. Okay. So this means that if vultures are eliminated, if there is a decline in the population, I will find that there will be increase in dogs and rats who will be consuming this dead organic matter. So when they increase, when the population of these dogs increase, they will also interfere with the agricultural farms. It is seen that when the population of these will increase, they will interfere with the agricultural farms. People who will be annoyed with the kind of nuisance that it is being created, what they will do, they will feed poison to this. They will feed poison to this dog, and when they feed poison, what will happen is, and when they die, you'll find that vultures will further eat it. That means the dogs who are poisoned, their bodies will also have the poison. Therefore, the vultures who consume the poison, it is called secondary poisoning. You are getting poisoned because of consuming the body of a poisoned animal. Okay, this is your secondary poisoning. So one was cattle itself. We talked about diclofenac. Diclofenac is already there. Okay, it was for pain relief. It was not a poison. But now there is a poison, and that poison is being fed, and the vultures are further decreasing. Right? So it causes a problem for the human health also. For human health as well. One, they are known to increase what kind of diseases? Rabies, anthrax. These kind of diseases are something that is spread on by the dogs and the rats. Okay. Then you will also have these carcasses. The vultures, if there is a group of vultures, this much of the mass can be wiped off in 40 minutes. Okay. 40 minutes it will take for them to clear this off. But if we are dependent upon dogs and rats as scavengers, you will find that there is consistent delay. You will find that it will take a number of days. It can so happen. So what kind of repercussion it will have on human health? You will face that there is contamination in water. Okay? Contamination in the agricultural crops also. So therefore, vultures become very, very important. So mechanism, so we have seen all of this mechanism. Toxic chemicals, what will happen is toxic chemicals as pesticides or as poisons, they will enter the food chain. Again, they will have bioaccumulation. What is bioaccumulation? Within the organism, when we talk about biomagnification, when we are talking about biomagnification is across the trophic level. When we are talking about accumulation, we are saying that within one individual itself. Yes, so this means that pyramid of biomass or pyramid of energy will tell me, what it will tell me, that it will be like this. That means the topmost carnivore, the one that finishes off this food chain, will be the most poisoned one, right? Because it will have, all of them will have some amount of poison. They are not as having as much concentration of poison as this is having. So most poisoned. Okay. As we move up, this is biomagnification. As we are moving in the horizontal direction, this is bioaccumulation. Okay. So this is your rapid death of scavengers and secondary poisoning, the concept. This has to be clear to you. Then ecological significance of vultures, ecosystem sanitation experts. So here you can see the actual pictures of the decline in population, the death of these vultures. Role in ecosystem, we have seen natural scavengers, they dispose carcasses very quickly, 40 minutes, approximately 40 minutes. Public health role, prevent spread of diseases, anthrax and rabies. Critical insight, vulture decline is rise in feral dogs. What is feral dogs? Not domesticated, no. They are actually previously, or they are domesticated dogs that will have offsprings that are not domesticated. That means it is not the transmission of biotechnology. है ना? मतलब domesticated dogs, they have either turned wild or they will have offsprings, they will have further generation that are wild dogs. These are feral dogs. So if vultures are declining, these wild dogs, how they are differentiated from domesticated? They are much more hostile towards the human populations, right? So if there is increase in rabid dogs also. Okay. They also get the opportunity to feed on the dying on the carcasses of the cattle also. And it is because of this reason, because of these wild dogs, that the people here are giving poison to them. Poison to the dogs. They have nothing against the vultures. Nothing against the vultures, they are poisoning the dogs itself. Okay, now broader conservation context. So we have seen this diclofenac toxicity, it has led to massive decline in the gyps species. Okay, it is one of the vulture species. Led to ban on the veterinary use 2006. Secondary poisoning, pesticides plus baiting. Structural issues. What are the structural issues when we talk about governance? One is the weak regulation of agrochemicals. Okay, that is how did these type of hazardous agrochemicals get into place? That is how people are using it to poison wildlife. The second is misuse of toxic substances. Third is high vulnerability in the buffer zones. Okay, buffer zones we are talking about the human wildlife. That means because there will be some type of conflict, because there will be a threat to human life and property, therefore they will resort to measures that will be antithetical to the conservation measures. Okay. So high vulnerability of such kind of actions taking place in the buffer zones. Last, this is building up upon the plastic waste management rules. I think we have covered this also, but there are some parts that need to be emphasized. One, you're talking about plastic waste management rules comes under which act? Environmental Protection Act 1986. It is an umbrella legislation. Empowers whom? Empowers the central government to take care of the pollution. Talks about definition of pollution, pollutants. Okay, defines what environment is. And within this you will have waste management rules. You will have waste management rules. This waste management rules, you will have biomedical waste, e-waste, solid waste management. After the solid waste or the municipal solid waste is managed or it is segregated and collected, then you will find that it is segregated into plastic waste also. Okay? So there has been amendment to PWMR in 2026. Now, देखो, 10 years हो गए, so it becomes important for us. 2016 was the time when it started. Before that, कब हुआ था? There was municipal solid waste 2000 rules. ठीक है? After that 2006. Then you have 2026. Notified under EPA. Core change eased compliance. Okay, that means you would have heard of EPR. What is EPR? Extended producer responsibility. Also asked in your previous year question. But targets are retained under EPR. It is saying that targets are already there. However, the compliance is made much easier. So we are going for flexible compliance regime. Let us see what they have relaxed. So first, EPR framework plus targets. EPR was something that was there in 2022. Applies to whom? Applies to PIBOs, PIBOs. Okay, we are saying one, if you are a producer of this plastic, if you are importing it from the outside, or if you are a brand owner, these are the ones who will have this EPR. That means this responsibility of collecting the plastic back is your responsibility. So obligation, collect and process 100% of the plastic waste that you have introduced into the environment. Okay. What is the nature of plastic? Why is plastic so widely used? One of the reasons is plastic is inert. Okay. Something that can also be manufactured. Now, when we talk about the source of production of plastic, 99% of it is manufactured through the fossil fuels, using of fossil fuels itself. Very rarely you will find that it is the biological material. For example, bio-PE. What is bio-PE? Polyethylene. Very rarely, 1% of the times. But dominant is fossil fuels. Third type of classification was there that we talk about, whether it is thermoplastic or thermosetting. What is the difference? Remold, है ना? That means you can apply heat and pressure to it and then you can remold this plastic. That is thermoplastic. Thermosetting, एक बार set हो गया, it is going to remain the same. That means the bonds will actually break down when we are talking about thermosetting. ठीक है? Recyclability, so we have seen that, okay. Recycling targets, first here you see here that deadline is 2024 to 2025, and then you have recycling targets. Recycling targets, see, this has been relaxed. Matlab 2025 to 2026 was the target. Now, since we are seeing that it may not be achieved, 2028 to 2029, that is, we are skipping by 3 years. 3 years. Okay. We have different categories of plastics. Category 1 is rigid. So we have said that the recycling target has to be increased from 30% to 60%. Okay? Recycling 30% to 60%. Then you have category 2, that is flexible, increase from 10% to 20%. Category 3, multi-layered, 5% to 10%. Now, just so that you are clear, ये symbol तो देखे होगे, है ना? This symbol is there on the plastic bottles. If there is one, then this is your PET bottle. ठीक है, PET bottle. This is polyethylene terephthalate. If there is 2, then you will find that it is HDPE. है ना? Normal Bisleri bottle में देखोगे आप, so you will find that the cap will be PET. Sorry, the bottle will be PET. Right? It is polyethylene terephthalate. It is something that is flexible. That is something very hard. Okay, but both of them can be recycled. Okay. But there is multi-layered type of plastic. What it will say, that you will have, suppose say aluminum layer, you will have paper layer, and you will have polyethylene layers, multiple polyethylene layers, and in between you will have aluminum layers, you will have paper layers. Okay, that is your multi-layered plastic. Now, because there is infusion of various different types of plastics and materials, it becomes very difficult for us to recycle. That is why you will have lower amount. That is, we are going to have recycling targets in a lower manner. Okay, this is very, very difficult to recycle. Just because there is so much different materials that are there. Reuse targets. Okay, these are recycling targets, these are reuse targets. This is for the rigid plastics. Rigid plastics that we are talking about, PET bottles, exactly. Small containers, 10%, large water packaging, 70%. Okay, just like Bisleri, 20 liters water bottle you have. Large non-water, 10%. Then what are the key provisions? One is carry forward mechanism. Carry forward mechanism, that means your deficit is allowed for the 3 years. That means we said that 2025 say अब 2028 हो गया, that means the target that you were supposed to achieve in 2025, it has now been extended to you achieving it in 2028. Okay, first, but it has been said that whatever, suppose I had to go for EPR of X amount, or I had to go for 100. Okay, so 100 by 3 should be covered in 2026. Okay, similarly 2027 and similarly 2028. इतना तो करना ही है. If you have to go for, you will have to go for more than this, 100 by 3, 100 by 3 and 100 by 3. The second thing is tradable EPR certificates. That means firms can buy credits instead of recycling. So for example, if you were said to produce 100 kgs of plastic, but you are unable to honor your EPR, you are unable to honor this EPR target, what you will do? You can buy this credit. Someone who has recycled or someone who has attained the producer responsibility more than the amount of kgs of plastic they have produced, they can sell you this EPR certificate. One of the issues here is that there are 6 lakh fake certificates as per CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board 2023. Okay. Exemptions are there in this amendment. Food packaging, FSSAI restrictions, it is a large sector that is being excluded. It is the Food Regulation Authority. Monitoring mechanism, centralized EPR portal and oversight by CPCB. These two things are there included. Okay, very difficult to track whether you have honored your EPR targets or not. Okay, so you have reality check. There is no verified evidence of 100% compliance. We don't have a concrete evidence of this. Second, it is much more based upon self-reporting. That means the people who are responsible, the producers that are responsible, they are themselves going to report. So there cannot be verification that is done. Verification is something that is remaining. So there is no, you could say, there is no accountability. Then data, 20.7 million tons have been recycled since 2022. And annual plastic waste, this is very important. These two facts you can write in your mains answers. Since 2022, we will have 20.7 million tons recycled. Annual plastic waste is 4.13 million tons. 4.13 million tons. Okay. So we are saying 4 and this is the number of years. The key gap is targets versus actual outcomes are not aligned. Yes, key terms and systemic issues. One, core structural issues. These are basically the terms that are related to the plastic waste management rule. One is end of life disposal. This you understand. Energy recovery. When we are saying energy recovery, we are saying waste to energy. Waste to energy. That means I find that there is a kind of waste that has high calorific value. If the calorific value is high, that means I can derive energy just by burning this kind of waste. Okay, that is your waste to energy plants. Then cement, it can be used in cement. It can be used as material in the roads as well. It is actually called blend, polyblend. Okay. Second, recycling includes energy generation as well. We are saying that either you go for recycling or you go for reusing or you convert it into energy. If you cannot do anything, go for landfills. Then you have plastic waste processors, recyclers plus disposal entities. Reuse means same or different use. That means the bottle that you bought for Coca-Cola is something that you can use to store water now. Okay? Without structural change. That means you are not changing the structure of the bottle. Seller, raw material suppliers are now included in this. Core structural issues, important from your mains point of view, at least 1 or 2 points you can write here. One is paper compliance risk. That means it is just on the basis, on the paper itself. Okay, we have EPR tradable certificates also. So there might not actually be recycling of waste, reusing of the waste products, but it will only be related to paper compliance. Second, weak verification, particularly because of self-reporting. Third, multi-layered plastics are hardest to manage. Okay, and there is also a call that multi-layered plastic should actually be phased out completely. Then regulatory dilution through flexibility. That means if you're giving the flexibility, that means you're going for extra 3 years for the targets to be completed. Then you are going for dilution of the regulatory clearances. Okay. So this is all. Okay. Thank you.